Hello, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to another Art for All group, this time in 2021. So Happy New Year to everybody. I hope that you had restful festive breaks and that the start of the new year has been a positive one for you. I've got some ideas about art projects that are very much to do with this new year and the idea of calendars, and I wanted, first of all, before getting into different art projects over the coming weeks, to just explore the idea of calendars and time. And I suppose 2020 was a year when time felt quite different for a lot of us. It might have gone really fast for you, or it might have gone very, very slowly at times. But yeah, I think I was thinking about how in different parts of the world people have different ways of measuring time, different ways of illustrating how they measure time, and also very, very different ways of thinking about the passage of time. And yeah, so that's something I've put a short PowerPoint together, and I'd like to show it to you. So I will share my screen, and I'll go to my first image. So we have days, months, hours, calendars and keeping time, a somewhat grandiose title for just, I thought about exploring just different ways that people have shown time. And a lot of people who are watching this video might be used to calendars that we have in the Western world. So we have 12 months, we have 365 days, some years we have a leap year, and we have months that are named after the Roman months that came in the past. So January was named after the god Janus, who had two faces, one facing the past, one facing the future. He was the god of doorways. March, after the god Mars. August, after the Emperor Augustus, who named the month after himself, and a few other months that correspond to the Roman calendar. But yeah, we think of time as, I suppose, quite linear, that we are standing here in the present, we look back to the past, we look forward to the future, the days tick off our calendar. This is from Singing in the Rain. They're dancing around, if you've ever seen the film, they're dancing around in the middle of the night, and they say, oh, it's March 23rd, which you might remember last year was when the lockdown started, and then somebody says, oh, no, it's midnight, now it's March 24th. And I suppose we think, because we've passed a certain point of the night, we're now in a new day. And is that the same as is measured everywhere else in the world? Maybe not. We shall find out in a minute. But I wanted to look at kind of the ways that people look at years, and even more, people looking at 1 year, people looking at cycles of years, and how that's been shown in artwork. So the first thing I thought of was, of course, the Chinese Zodiac, which is followed in a huge portion of the world. And Chinese New Year, we've had sort of the Western calendar New Year a couple of days ago, but Chinese New Year is on the 12th of February this year. And for those of you who don't know, the Chinese signs of the Zodiac, each one of these animals corresponds to a year. So you have cycles of different years. And different years can mean different things for the people who are born in those years. So people who are born in the year of the dragon may be thought to have certain attributes. People who are born in the year of the rabbit might have other attributes. And I think this is this cycles around. So every 13 years you get back to the same year again. And also people who are born at different times of the day can have different qualities that are associated again with signs of the zodiac, or with elemental elements. So earth, fire, water, air, and different things can have different meanings for different people's lives and outlooks according to this calendar. In terms of kind of cycles of years, this is the Aztec calendar, or the Mexican calendar, and they had actually a very similar number of days in the year to the days that we had. So they had 365 days in the year. 360 of them were named, and 5 of them were unnamed. And these unnamed days are considered very unlucky rather. And you have kind of, and I think the months, what we would call months, were divided into kind of portions of 18 to 20 days. And it followed the seasons, it followed the rains, but there was a spiritual calendar as well. And this cycle of the years made kind of centuries that were made up of 52 calendar years as we would see them. And they also corresponded with the stars as well. So it's a really complex system, but one that relates to our own, and one that had, each day had its own name, an animal associated with it, different qualities associated with it, and a really, really rich mythological and pictorial history as well. And then coming back to Western Europe, I suppose the concepts of time in the Middle Ages would have been very different, or sort of, actually very different from what we think of now, even down to the way that people slept. So in the Middle Ages, it would have been quite unusual for most people below a certain class to actually sleep all the way through the night. You might get up in the middle of the night, and if you were a monk or a nun, you might pray, or you would pray. If you were a labourer, you might go and check on the animals. So people had these different divisions of the day. They would wake up at the sunrise and they would go to bed when the sun set, and they might wake up in between that. So people wouldn't necessarily sleep for 12 hours in the winter. They might wake up. But during the Middle Ages, what started to happen was that prayer books that had been reserved for monks and nuns started to be made for very rich people. The images you can see in front of you, these are from the Très Riche de Duc de Berry. So he was a French prince who had an awful lot of money and commissioned these beautiful calendars, an illuminated book of hours. So with this book of hours, it was a calendar, so you could follow. In this, you can see there are star signs. You can follow the stars. You can see this. There's a chariot up at the top with the sun moving across the sky, and it shows the occupations that would happen in different times of the year. So you can see people threshing, so scything and threshing, and you can see people going on a hunt in another part of the year. You can see people warming themselves up in the winter in a different part of the year. And so you had this corresponding to the months of the year, but also there would be different prayers for different hours of the day. So there's also a book about gardening called the Morville Hours, and that corresponds to the times of the day in which you would get up and pray. So you'd get up and pray at dawn, you'd get up and pray, you'd pray mid-morning, you'd pray at lunchtime, you'd pray in the afternoon, you'd play evensong, vespers, and then into the night as well. So these markings of the day and movements of the hours, and these would have been marked by church bells. So yeah, this is the start of kind of the hours and markings of our day, before a time before anybody wore watches, but where people were starting to think about how they marked the day. And I suppose in Islam as well, pray at set times of the day. The day is divided, the day is organised, and there is this linearity that came about in art as well. So you move through the book, you read through the book, you read through the year, and these beautiful images that were once the preserve the rich and famous. Eventually, many people came to own their own books of hours, and they would be personalised. So you might have your name written specifically in the prayers that were to be said at different hours. So they became really personal treasures almost to keep with you. Moving on to very different concepts of time. We're going to the other side of the world now. This is the Yukno Valley in Papua New Guinea, And the people who live in the Yupno Valley, they have a different way of thinking about time, and it's actually a really beautiful way of thinking about time. So they view the future, they view time and their inner landscape as well as their outer landscape as being within the valley. So to look to the future is to go uphill, and to look to the past is to go back downhill behind you. And it's the way that actually you move up the valley away from the sea. You think about the landscape of your life and the lives of your ancestors. So you go downhill, and it also extends to the way that people think about the inside of their houses as well in the Yupno Valley. So you enter through the front door, and then you go uphill into the house, and uphill up the sides as well. And you always go downhill to get out the door, even if your front door faces uphill and your house actually physically slopes downhill, you are still going uphill to go into the house. So it's a really fascinating way to visually conceptualise time and centuries and your family and the landscape inside your home. It's just a different way, a completely different way from the Book of Hours or from a cyclical version of the Zodiac, but no less interesting or useful or relevant. And sticking with this theme, we go again over the other side of the world to the Aymara people in South America. And for these people, in their language, the way that they think about the present and about their past and their future, the word that they have for the words that they have to think about looking into the future are words to do with going behind, and the words to think about looking at the past are all structured around the idea of facing forwards. So we might think of ourselves as, I'm facing forwards into the future, but for the Aymara people, they're facing backwards into the past. And so the future is behind them, which actually, seeing as none of us really know what the future holds, is maybe a bit more apt than, I think, our language, where we're sort of saying, oh, I can look into the future, I can see into the future. Can any of us see into the future? 2020 might have been very different if any of us were able to see into the future, but we can look back into the past. And when they speak about their past, they will speak about their grandparents and their ancestors, and they will gesture outwards. They'll gesture and looking towards the horizon. The very far past is the horizon that they're looking to, and the future is kind of back there but coming. So the future is moving past us into the past. So it's just a very interesting way of thinking about how we conceptualise time, how we visualise it. And I'll stop sharing my screen now. But over the next few weeks, I'm going to be coming up with different art projects about how we can design our own calendars, our own personalised calendars, maybe similar to the Books of Hours, maybe similar to Zodiac signs or signs of centuries, or maybe there are different ways that we think about the past and ways that we like to draw it. So I look forward to discussing those with you in the coming weeks for the rest of January. And in the meantime, I wish you all the very best until next week. Thank you very much for joining today, and goodbye.